What's up, fishing buddies? We got a little snow this morning. I would still go fishing today, but it is also windy, which is the same thing that kept me from going yesterday. And so I won't be doing none of that today, but tomorrow is supposed to be much better, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to take care of some critters here and probably fool with some tackle and maybe do a video on some jigging or I don't know. I'll figure out something to do. Something to do with fishing, hopefully. Hopefully not a honey-do list, but we will be. I'm dying to get back on the water. It's been almost a week. But and I also want to shout out to my buddy Levi. Got me this fantastic Christmas present. Came over, Santa delivered it today. Nice Plano box. All kinds of places for my plastics, my crankbaits. I'm gonna load this bad boy up. What's up, fishing buddies? Clear Fork Bassin here. Today we're gonna go over deep diving crankbaits. Reason being is I thought about doing a video on some jigging, and I thought, well, tomorrow I'm going fishing, and what I'm most likely going to use all day is deep diving crankbaits. So I thought, what better time than now to do a video on deep diving crankbaits. And I just got this new lure in, and I'll go over it later, what brand and how deep and all that stuff later. But now tomorrow I'll be fishing the Artie Bailey Lake, and last week when I was there, it was very muddy, about 6 to 10 inches at best. That's being generous visibility. So I've been using some very bright colors down there, and that is what I'm probably going to use tomorrow as well. I have some other deep diving crankbaits that are more natural colors, but I really doubt seriously that I'll be getting to them tomorrow. And starting off with a deep diving crankbait, with your tackle. Let's start with that. Okay, so tomorrow I'm going to be using 25-pound braid with 15-pound fluorocarbon leader. Now, as deep as this will be, you know, a person may not have to use a leader. I use leaders and I tie uni knot, double uni knot, and I do that just, it helps me mentally. You know, diving that deep, you may not have to tie a leader, but I with braid, I like to tie a leader. It's just what I do. And my rods, I wish I had some longer rods. I don't have. I've got one 7-foot rod right now, and it's actually on my spinning reel. But I would like to get some longer bait casting rods for deep diving crankbait purposes. Because the reason being is the longer the rod, the further you're going to get that cast. And you want to get very far cast, as far as you can cast when you're casting a deep diving crankbait. Because you're really only going to have about 1/3 of the time in that strike zone. You know, basically. And see, because when you cast that, you're going to have here, say this is your cast. You cast from here to here. Here's where it hits the water. Okay? You're going to be taking about 1/3 of that time to get down, and then you'll have about 1/3 in there, and about 1/3 up, coming up out of the water. Okay, so the further the cast you can get, the better, and the longer the rod, the further the cast you can normally get. But I will be using a 6'9" rod. I would preferably have something over 7.5, you know, longer even. 7-11 if I could, anything like that. And it'll be quantum medium heavy with the 7:3-to-1 gear ratio. Now, a lot of people have the misconception that you can only use medium or medium light with crankbaits because they say that for better hook sets, but I find that to kind of be like a myth. Some professionals may disagree with me. Some Amateurs may disagree with me, but I find that to be kind of a myth. Because they, that crankbait, and I like to use that heavy action rod so I can feel what's going on underneath the water there, because you're going to dig this thing deep. You're going to be grinding it in the rock, When people use a crankbait, some people misuse them by not getting them deep enough, that being, you want that to be digging in the dirt and the rock along the bottom of that. You want it to be bouncing off structure and everything like that. But a lot of times people are afraid of losing their baits. Now, what I've come to find out over the years is that you can't be afraid of losing lures. You're gonna lose lures. Now, I've never lost a square bill because they tend to bounce off things better. But I've rarely ever lost a deep diving crankbait. When I have, it's got hung in brush, not from bouncing off rocks and things like that, or logs and stumps. I've cast it into brush or something and wasn't able to get it out. But that you want that to be digging in the bottom. You don't necessarily want it just up here floating in the water. Some people they'll say, well, I'm going to fish. I'll be fishing in 15 feet of water, so the fish might be suspended a little bit. I want to use a 10-foot diving crankbait or an 8-foot diving crankbait, and yeah, you may catch fish like that, but I'm telling you, you'll catch bigger fish, and I've caught more fish by digging that down. If I'm fishing 15 feet of water, I'm going to use something that dives maybe 18. That's meant for 18 to 20 feet, and I'm going to dig that in that structure down there, and that is going to put you. That's going to really make those fish become active. They're going to you're going to get some reaction bites off that as well, and that is what you want when using a deep diving crankbait, and that's what I tend to do when using a square bill that dives maybe 2 to 5 feet, something like that. I like in the river or on a lake, I'll go up, beat that bank in a lake even with a square bill or a lipless crankbait. Now lipless, you can't really, I don't dig them in as much and bounce them off structure as much because a lipless crankbait is more apt to get hung up because it just, the hook is right there exposed. There's nothing blocking a lot like on a deep diving crankbait or a square bill crankbait. But I will beat the bank with those, but I'll be casting maybe in 3-4 foot of water, up the bank. But my crankbait will be diving 5 feet, and it'll just be tearing it up coming up through there. And you get a lot more reaction bites and things like that if you're bouncing off structure, which it's commonly known, for everybody knows that. But if you don't know that, there's a good tip. But yeah, you want this to be tearing it up, even with a deep diving crankbait. You want that. You get bigger fish that way, and don't be afraid to use big baits. This is not a giant bait. This is probably about the size. This is the XPS brand, but this is probably about the size of a KVD X10 crankbait. I think that's what it's called. 10XD. Sorry, not an X10. My mistake. But it's like a 10XD. I've got so many baits that sometimes they run over each other. But anyways, yeah, this is probably about the size of that. I think these are like size 2 hooks on here. So you're looking for big bites, And smallmouth didn't hit this. This color here is like chartreuse with blue back. But I'm so anxious to try this out. And one thing I've learned too about telling whether a deep diving crankbait is a really good bait. And first of all, you want to see if it runs true. If it's coming in straight, or if it's not coming in straight, you're going to have to take some pliers and do some adjusting here at the nose. But now if it's running true and it's a good crankbait, when you reel that in, it's going to come by all the way past you, and it's going to back. You're going to have to back it up to get it up for another cast. That's how you know a lot of times whether you got a good crankbait or not. If your crankbaits aren't doing that, then you probably aren't using a quality crankbait and getting the action that you deserve out of one. So I would make sure that when you're checking your bait out, to make sure that's the case. But tomorrow I'm going to really try to get some good footage of deep diving crankbaits. At least if I don't get great footage, I still don't have my action cameras. I'm doing all this on an iPhone. If I don't have some good footage, I'll at least have some decent clips of the fish if I do catch any tomorrow, which I'm hoping that I do. Okay, so now let's go over the baits that the lures that I'll be using tomorrow. Okay, guys, so here is this. I bought this for $8. It's a good price for this KDS extra deep diving fat crankbait. And the color on this is, like I said before, chartreuse with a blue back. And these red eyes, I like that. They look mean, don't it? But this crankbait here dives from 15 to 20 feet. And I'll be using it. It's a heavier bait. I'll be using it on the medium heavy action rod and reel that I've got there. So it's a really nice bait. And I'll also, this is what I caught fish on the other day. I'll be using these bombers. It's Bomber brand. And I'm using these really bright colors because that is what I've been getting hits on down there. That's a Artie Bailey Lake, because the water has been so dingy, I guess. And I mean, don't be afraid to use these bright colors sometimes. I mean, most people's not afraid of the chartreuse colors and things like that, but don't be afraid to use these. You never know what a fish is looking for that day. That's one thing my pops always told me, and is that to not be afraid of those wild colors. And I've used them, and they produce fish. There are times for natural colors, but there are also times for these wild colors as well. But this is the Bomber Deep Long A. It's a walleye. It says it's labeled as a walleye bait if you look at Bass Pro Shops. But these are $7 a piece. And I've got this is the Fruity Crush color. This is the one I was using the other day. You can tell I beat and banged it. That's the sign that you are using your bait properly, is if you've got some dings on it. If you've beat it up a bit from bouncing it off structure and things like that. And that's the Fruity Crush color. This here is the Lemonade Crush color. And this one is a little bit more transparent. You can see maybe might use it if the water is a little more clear, if it has more clarity to it. But both bright colors that I might tie on tomorrow. I've definitely tied on one of them. You know, if one of them does good, I'll just keep using it. But also, we have here the Bass Pro Shops XPS. This is their Laser Eye Deep Diver crankbait. Now this, I have used this before, of course, like I've used the last one before, but this is a affordable crankbait. These are $4 a piece from Bass Pro Shops. Now, if you're just getting into using crankbaits, and they have a good selection of colors as well, but if you're just getting into using crankbaits and are afraid to spend money, this is a quality crankbait that you can use, that you might not be so afraid of losing as well. So this is the chartreuse with the black back, and it dives about 15 feet. This one does, So I'll be using it a little less, a little more shallow. But I'll be digging that on the bottom, along the bottom there, trying to get that reaction bite. Uh, Also, I have this. You see this pink color. It's a Crappie Max. You have a chance of catching crappie with this, but you can catch bass on this as well. I'll use this with the lighter rod and reel, the medium action. But this is the chewing gum color, and then 2-inch, and this dives about 10 feet. But I'll work it the same way. I'll be digging it in. That's the thing. That's what you want to make sure you're doing is digging that into the bottom. And now I'm going back to some of these old school Rebel crawfish. These dive 8 to 10 feet is what these are. They got these little steel ball in them here to help give them some weight. But I have this is the mossback, and this color here, I just call it the red crawl, but these are old lures. My dad had these lures back in the 80s. It's probably how old these are, but they still work great. When something works, you don't change it up, and these have worked for me throughout the years. This is the closest thing to this color might be like the Nest Robber, but I have this in like 3 different sizes in this color. But I love these Rebel crawls. I'll be tying them on tomorrow as well. And last but not least, I have the live target. Now this is going to be this is a more expensive bait, and these may have just come out this year or last year, but I just got mine this year. But this is the live target yearling bait ball crank. This is the pearl and violet shad color. Now this only dives about 7 feet, 8 feet, but it's supposed to mimic a ball of bait, bait fish traveling together. Now this time of year, in the winter, you won't see a lot of this tiny bait fish like this, but I may not throw this one tomorrow, but I may throw it just for the color, to see if I get anything off of it. A lot of these bites that I'm going to be getting, a lot of bites from crankbaits is reaction bites. So if I throw a little some shallow in some shallow structure tomorrow and things like that, I might throw this on. But I just wanted to show you this. These are pretty neat looking baits, and this is the Live Target brand, and it's about 15 to anywhere from 15 to 19 bucks depending on where you get it from. But I have seen generic, I guess you'd call it, versions of this, and I've ordered some of them from China, just to see in comparison. I mean, I like to compare my baits. I like to see, if you haven't noticed, I like to buy the cheap and sometimes the more expensive just to see how they do against each other. And hopefully, this spring and summer when it warms up, I can use the underwater cam and show you how they do in the pool in comparison, see if there's a big difference. But that's basically what I'm going to be using tomorrow, and I hope that this video helped you guys out a little bit with deep diving crankbaits. I know a lot of people have some misconceptions about crankbaits and things like that, but hopefully this, from my experience, this is the way I use crankbaits and have success with them around here in the local lakes and things like that. Clear water reservoirs might be a little bit different, but that's how I use them here. And I'm going to hop off here and try to get these tied up, get them ready for in the morning, and I hope that I can do maybe a part 2 to this deep diving crankbaits, showing you some catches tomorrow. But this is Jason with Clear Fork Bassin, and be sure to like and subscribe. The more you like, the more subscribers I get, the better off that it helps me. And comment, please comment. Let me know what you think about the videos. Let me know if I stink, if you like them, or if any tips that you can give me. You know, I want this kind of to be an experience and a journey where I grow. I've got a lot of growing to do. I'm only 36, so still a young man. So I don't know everything about fishing. I just can tell you, share with what I've experienced. That's basically what we can all do. So share with me your tips, and we'll get a dialogue there. I'll answer you as soon as I can. You gotta forgive me. I got a little southern drawl and slang here in the mountains in West Virginia. But tomorrow is going to be maybe in the 40s. But the wind isn't supposed to be too bad. Maybe a little snow on the ground, but you can still get a line wet. So until next time, we will see you on the water.